Hello, my friends, Stevie B here. So there's a lot of folks who are interested in and just getting started in the business of licensing their music to media. The question that I want to try to answer in this video is, where would I start and what would I do if all the progress that I've made, all the skills that I've developed and all the contacts I've made just disappeared and I had to start over from scratch? So let's imagine you're new to this whole music licensing thing. 2025 is just around the corner. You want to get your foot in the door and you're ready to start working hard and making this music thing happen. So let's figure this out together. The first thing you need to do is just ask yourself a very simple question relating to the product itself, your music. Is the music that you're writing as good or better than your references? Now, a reference can be anything, of course, but for the sake of music licensing, let's say you're listening to the catalog of a production music library. We'll take a Universal Production Music Library as an example. There's a huge public catalog with a massive variety of genres, and overall the quality is pretty high. This would be a good reference. And of course, there's a varying degree of quality across all of the different production libraries that are out there, but the truth is that the quality bar overall in general is pretty high. You don't need to be a genius level composer or mixing engineer to find opportunities in licensing, but obviously having a really strong product is going to open more doors for you. And so that's where I would invest the most of my time if I was starting over again. Initially, just making sure that I had a really strong product to showcase. When I started out, my production skills were not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but I also started out with a very manageable approach. Like, for example, my first licensing tracks were just simple acoustic guitar tracks with a handful of layers, relatively easy to produce and mix. And from there, I just kept learning and branching out. Eventually, I got into writing like orchestral and cinematic music and hip hop and all of these other sync-friendly genres. But it took years to get there. And the learning never stops, of course. I'm still learning. So if you're just starting out with production, you don't necessarily have to jump into the deep end right away. I would recommend starting with a genre that you're familiar and comfortable with, and overall just, focus in on the quality above all else. Okay, so I'll get the shameless self-promo out of the way. Don't worry, it'll be quick and painless. When I was starting out, I wish I had access to course material specifically covering all the genres that work well for licensing, and not only that, but courses that take you step by step through the entire process of writing, mixing, and mastering tracks from scratch, and that is exactly why I started the Production Music Academy. We have over a dozen production courses in genres that have all served me well throughout my career as a music producer. They are available for purchase on productionmusictools.com, or you can access all of them, as well as a very supportive online community and feedback services for a very affordable monthly or annual price. All that info is in the description below. Go check that out and feel free to hit me up anytime if you have any questions. Okay, so back on track. Maybe you're not sure about the quality question. Don't be afraid to share your work with others. Ask for feedback, get second opinions on your tracks. Don't just show friends and family. Find people who are willing to give you constructive and honest feedback. And let's say maybe you're feeling confident that your tracks are competitive. That's great. But regardless of where you're at with the quality question, I would highly recommend making time for researching opportunities and networking. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys, when I was starting out and trying to wrap my head around the whole music production thing, I spent like 100% of my time focusing on quality and educating myself on the topic of just music production. And I did that for years before I started to think about pitching the music anywhere. It all started with studying audio engineering here in Vancouver, and then as things got more digital over time, I spent a lot of time watching production tutorials on YouTube. I've taken courses and spent a lot of time experimenting. I did kind of obsess over this notion that the music had to be perfect before I pitched it anywhere, and I don't know, I guess on some level, maybe that attitude has served me well in some ways, and other ways, maybe it slowed me down, and I probably missed some opportunities as well. It's hard to know when you're ready, but at some point I did feel ready, I guess, to switch gears and start pitching. And when I did, I just made sure to keep a really open mind, and sure enough, some amazing things started happening. Now, I've spoken to a lot of folks who are kind of at this stage. They've got some great music and they've got some really solid production chops, and they're eager to just get their music out there. But I will say that all too often, I speak with composers who are hyper-focused on a very particular outcome, and I guess there's nothing wrong with targeting a particular library, a publishing company, or a music supervisor, or whatever, but I would just keep in mind that even though you are bound to encounter your fair share of rejections, and you are bound to never hear back from many of the people that you're going to reach out to, I can tell you from personal experience that there is a huge amount of opportunity out there for those that are willing to persevere. And I know this to be true not only because of what's happening in my life at this moment, but I've seen it happen with students of the Production Music Academy. Some of the members who stuck it out for years are out there working, getting custom work, getting their music synced. Things are happening for them. So again, I speak with a lot of composers who are at this kind of stage. They're really eager to get their music out there. A lot of people who want to get their tracks on Artlist, because I've spoken about Artlist a lot throughout the last few years on this channel. And I think at the time of this recording, they're currently not accepting submissions. They closed their doors. I don't know if it's temporary. I don't know how long it'll be, but I know that's bummed a lot of people out. But believe me, Artlist is just the tip of the iceberg. I can barely keep up with my own Artlist projects these days with all the other work that I'm doing. Between custom composing projects and sync briefs, I am utterly and completely swamped here. Just this last week, I wrote 8 tracks between 2 different publishers. I also managed to write a custom intro theme for a podcast. It was exhausting. So I've noticed that people kind of tend to hyper-focus on this one thing or this one library that everyone's talking about online. And I think there is a danger in that mentally, because ultimately you want to diversify. I've talked about this many times on the channel. I have many streams of income between performance royalties and sync fees, film scoring and custom work, streaming, content ID. So again, I think it's just wise to be open-minded. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. There's hundreds of great music libraries out there. There's tons of opportunities, and there's a ridiculous amount of content that needs great music. But coming back to the discussion around making time for research and networking, this is part of the job. Join communities, share your work, get to know other composers, research music libraries, reach out to music supervisors, to filmmakers, videographers, whatever. All of this builds your visibility and connects you with potential opportunities. The more that you immerse yourself in the industry, the more that you'll understand what clients are looking for and how to position your work so that it stands out. There was a time that I used to do a lot of this stuff, and yes, it is exhausting. It's sometimes demoralizing, but it gets easier. Bottom line is, building these relationships over time will lead to collaborations, to placements, and ultimately, hopefully, a sustainable career. And there is an art to it, to networking. It's a skill, and that's a topic that's worthy of an entire video on its own. But all I can say is, at its core, the most essential principle is this: always strive to offer something of value rather than simply seeking something for yourself. When you approach connections with a genuine intention to contribute something, you build relationships that are authentic and mutually beneficial. This mindset not only sets you apart, but also creates a foundation of trust and respect. So there's one more topic I want to discuss before I wrap all this up, and it's an extension of the networking conversation. And I guess some of this is optional because everyone has a varying degree of comfort when it comes to social media. But look, 2 things I want to say here. First of all, I believe still that having a website is absolutely essential, especially if you're out there looking for custom composing projects, but also if you're pitching music to sync libraries. Just like you'd have a business card if you're networking in person, a website serves the exact same purpose, but it's even better because you can highlight all your talents and expertise and your work experience. And you better believe that people will check you out. Every email that I send out has an automatic signature that includes my website and socials. That's bare minimum. And if you want to go the extra mile, for those of you who know what you're doing on social media, maybe you're active on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is. Look, I can't speak for every platform, and I'm certainly not an expert on social media, but I can confidently say that starting this YouTube channel was one of the best life decisions I've ever made. And I get a lot of clients that come through this channel. Some of the publishers I work with have also found me on YouTube. So I'm not necessarily trying to convince you all to start a YouTube channel. I know that's not realistic. I'm just saying social media is there. It's another tool to be used and leveraged if you're keen to network and put yourself out there. Coming from someone who's an introvert, who's still kind of shy in a lot of ways, to be honest, just putting a little bit of thought into how to get my music out there and heard, just pushing it out to anyone and everyone who's willing to listen. That's been the mentality. That's really the thing that's helped me to transform what was once a hobby into a thriving music career. Okay, so thank you for joining me on another rant today. I hope you guys found that interesting, insightful. I do think often about all of the different things that have contributed to me being here and talking in front of this camera today. It's been a crazy, wild ride for the last 6-7 years or so. I'm always up for sharing my knowledge and my experience with you guys as much as I can on this channel. And as always, please feel free to let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And yeah, I'll leave it there. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.